Let's go back to those cosmic zombies. Welcome to the Complete Story Series, where I take trade paperbacks and single issues, and I break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then I read them dramatically back to you. All alterations to the panels, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Now, we've been doing a side tale about the Deadpool zombie and what it's been doing during the whole Marvel Zombies thing. But what about the original zombies? Before all this alternate dimension stuff and everything that was happening with the Deadpool zombie head and all that kind of stuff, there was zombies including Spider-Man and the Hulk. They had Captain America and Iron Man, and they all got cosmic powers and then were teleported away. So who survived? Who's still there? And what's going on? This story shortly begins after the events of Marvel Zombies 2, when Cortez tricked the zombies and teleported them off to a different dimension. On Earth Z, zombie Peter Parker tries to tell Cortez not to do it, but before he can finish his sentence, he sees that it was too late. He looks around to see a new vibrant world, unpolluted by his kind, and he decides that it's time to try and find the others. He leaps off the building, and with the loss of his cosmic powers from changing dimensions, he uses his veins to swing through the city. With no one in sight, Peter reads the newspaper and sees that not only did he get sent to a different dimension, he was also sent back in time. Around the time that this world's Peter Parker was in college. But also that this is the time when mob leaders were also trying to decipher a tablet that reveals the key to eternal youth. "That's it!" he shouts, ripping the paper. If he can get that tablet first, he can rid himself of this curse. He will no longer be a zombie. Over at Empire State University, zombie Peter is looking down at his younger self and Mary Jane, but this time instead of eating her, he decides that he must save her. Suddenly an explosion goes off and the Sinister Six begin their attack to take the tablet. Zombie Peter begins to smell Kraven's scent, but he decides that he must control himself. But those jungle herbs, they make him want to feed. Peter jumps on Kraven and he begins biting and ripping out his throat, and everyone just stops. And one by one, Peter begins killing the remaining members. First, he punches Mysterio through his dome, pulling out his brain, and then uses Electro to electrocute Doc Ock. Vulture tries to get away, but Peter jumps up, ripping his arms off, and then he uses them to cut Electro's head off. Last standing is Flint Marko, and he shouts, "What are you doing? You're breaking all of the rules!" And he runs away. Inside of the university, Kingpin grabs the tablet, but seeing Peter taking out the Sinister Six, he decides that it will be him who finally stops Spider-Man. Kingpin jumps into attack, and Peter lunges at him, and chomp, chomp, chomp. Kingpin didn't stand a chance. Elsewhere in the alley, Flint continues to run away when this world's Peter Parker swings in, telling him, "Not so fast, Beach Boy." Flint looks at him and begins beating him down by punching his face into the ground. He then tells him, "You want to eat people, huh? Then eat this!" And then Flint begins to fill Peter with sand, so much so that his stomach becomes bloated and fat, and then pop, he explodes. Back at the university, zombie Peter continues to feed on Kingpin, and he thinks maybe he should just feed on the bad people. That way innocent, but then he turns and sees everyone that he bit killing all of his friends. Peter gets up killing all of the villains again, shouting that he was going to save them! What a joke he is! He's no superhero, not with this face. He then starts to rip the skin off of his own head, exposing nothing but muscle, stating, "Wherever I go, there won't be a hero, I'll be a monster!" Up on the blue side of the moon, the Watcher decides that it is time that they must transgress their sacred oath by not interfering with the worlds. But as he goes to contact the other Watchers, a shadow looms over him, and giant man Hank Pym, who's a zombie, bites down, stating, "I'm lucky that we were teleported away. Now I can eat the entire multiverse." 2 years go by, and Hank Pym finally figured out how to teleport himself back to Earth. In this world, Tony Stark became a drunk who started to lose control of his company. On his desk, though, a device alerts of a cross-world breach down in the basement. But because of its condition, it shorts out and catches fire. Tony mentions that that device is something Reed Richards found in the Watcher's lab, but had no clue what it was. Happy decided to check it out and heads down into the basement, but as he walks in, he notices some stalactites. Just then, Hank bites down on him, telling him, "I know the device is here, now you'll lead me to it." Happy begins walking back into the lobby and begins biting everyone until Rhodey blows away his head. But while the zombie infection spreads, Tony and Pepper sit in Tony's office trying to figure out if this is what the device warned them about. Still unable to make out what it is, Tony tossed it in with the rest of the scrap metal and decided that it was time to have one last drink. Over in the men's bathroom, Rhodey finds the Iron Man suit and begins blasting his way to Tony's office. As he walks in, he sees Pepper being attacked, and Tony just drinking. Rhodey goes to fire another blast, but since Tony forgot to charge the suit, he just smashes in the zombie's head. Rhodey asks if Pepper's okay, and as she turns, they see the infection is already turning her, and Tony throws up in her face. She runs away screaming, and Rhodey asks, "What was that?" And Tony tells him, "Actually, this vodka is supposed to be a cure for cancer. It has millions of nanometer-sized machines suspended in sterile alcohol. Though it never worked in trials, it seems to be tearing the disease apart. Only problem is the zombies have to ingest it." Rhodey then plugs the suit into the charger, and Tony tells him that it will take hours that they don't have, so he's gonna have to get into the factory wing so they can get the speed charger. Zombies begin to shuffle into the office while Hank sneaks in to grab the Watcher's device. Tony says that as of now, Rhodey will be Iron Man, and he finishes his drink while the zombies begin to eat him, telling them to go on. He's full of nanobots. Rhodey blasts his way to the factory wing and he grabs the speed charger, telling everyone Iron Man is here, and he's on his way to help. 2 more years pass, and in Tokyo, Kitty Pryde begins to meet up with Logan as hand ninjas begin to attack. She runs down the alley and she sees Logan, except that it's not this world's Logan. Zombie Logan lunges forward, but Kitty phases, and Logan rushes through her into the hand ninjas and begins tearing them apart. Once he's done eating, he turns back to Kitty and then is shot in the face with webbing. Zombie Peter Parker grabs a hold of Logan and slams him into a wall, telling Kitty that this is about to sound corny, but come with me if you want to live. Peter leads Kitty to his lab, explaining that what she saw was a zombie. He goes on to tell her about how he came from a different dimension where the zombie virus surfaced, and it spread across the world, killing everyone. Zombie Logan was teleported here and has since been feeding on people unchecked, but with his research, he has created a vaccine. It won't change him back, but it will save him, dampening his appetite. The virus overwhelmed Zombie Logan's healing factor to create the vaccine. He will need this world's Logan's blood. Back outside, Zombie Logan finds himself fighting with Sunfire as he's thrown into the underground fighting rings. Iron Fist looks at him and asks what's wrong, and Zombie Logan pops his claws both through him and Sunfire's head, telling him, "I'm just fine." Then a voice calls out to him, and he turns back to see this world's Logan walking up to him. Over in Peter's lab, he continues to explain to Kitty about the vaccine, but the flies are starting to bother her. He is still a zombie. She looks around to see where the flies are coming from, and phases through to see what it is, and finds body parts hanging from the ceiling. She pushes herself back out, and Peter tells her that he wanted to spare her. He then takes off his mask, telling her, "It's time for the truth." Kitty shouts that he's one of them, and Peter says, "Yeah, well, it's a bit complicated, but I've been working on our treatment and I haven't killed anyone in a long time. I was so close to saving Logan, saving the world, and saving my own soul." Kitty is still hesitant about helping, but Peter hands her a wooden stake, telling her that she can just phase this into his head and it'll kill him, since he can't eat her anyway because of her abilities. But time is short. They need to get a sample of this world's Logan's blood now. Back in the Fight Club, both Logans are going back and forth, slashing and cutting away at each other until Kitty and Peter show up. Logan quickly turns to kill Peter, but before he can, Zombie Logan stabs Logan through the back. Kitty jumps into action, holding the stake in her hand and stabbing it down into Zombie Logan's head, but she only managed to stab his eye. He smacks her away, stating that he's pretty sure he has something in his eye, and then Logan gets back up and rips Zombie Logan's insides out. Logan turns back to Peter, telling him that he has 1 second to explain what's going on. 10 minutes later, Logan says, "This is pretty nuts even by my standards." As Peter leaves with the sample and Zombie Logan, Kitty and Logan watch as Kitty asks what should they do now. And Logan says, "Maybe grab some grub? I kinda worked up an appetite." After witnessing the destruction of his newfound home as well as the woman that he loved, Bruce Banner, the Hulk, has returned from space to destroy the worlds of those who first exiled him. He jumps down into the blue area of the moon above Earth to begin carrying out his revenge. And as he bursts into the palace of the royal family, he calls out to Black Bolt to come and face him. But what he sees is that the palace is scattered with parts of bodies. From the shadows, Medusa tells him that he does not want this fight. And as he gets closer, he sees Black Bolt and Medusa as zombies. Hank appears behind him, telling him, "Thanks for stopping by. We were starved for some company." Hank punches down on the Hulk, and in the distance, the survivors of the Hulk's planet appear, shouting that they will protect their king. But one blast from Black Bolt's sonic powers blows everyone away, allowing the zombies to feed on them. Hulk jumps up as Hank begins eating and punches him across the face. Hulk then picks up Elio and begins to run outside, and just as they are clear, Elio notices something on Hulk's arm. They both look at the bite marks, and the Hulk begins to call out to the hunger, and he rips Elio in two, and he begins to devour her, and when he's finished, he looks towards Earth. After taking his ship down, the Hulk begins eating through the people of Manhattan. While Earth's armies try to fight him off, Sentry flies in telling Bruce to forgive him, and he blasts him through a building, punching and beating him down, telling the Hulk that this greatly pains him. But the Hulk then changes back to Bruce, telling him, "Wait, you just don't understand. This hunger, Sentry changes back and he tells him, whatever this is, we're gonna find a way to fix it. And just then, Bruce leaps up, biting Sentry in the arm, and then he changes into his uniform, stating, I understand now. Meanwhile, Zombie Peter watches, stating that this just keeps getting worse and worse. He's going to need backup, and right now, it's time for the Avengers to dismember. Over in the Avengers Tower, several of the now-turned zombies sit around discussing their #1 kill. With the world destroyed and mostly eaten, the zombies have to pass time sitting around talking about their glory days, when the zombies' armies all fought each other. But while Hank continues to work trying to figure out the Watcher's device to unlock the rest of the multiverse, the hunger alert goes off. Quicksilver runs over to Professor X's body, which is still hooked up to Cerebro, and sees that there is some fresh human meat that they missed over in the Savage Land. Everyone loads up in the Quinjet and they fly out, but as they begin to get closer to where the signal came from, the Quinjet is shot down. The zombies begin to pick themselves up as Peter tells them, lucky they were already dead, huh? Well, the new Avengers are here to make sure that they are erased and will never be allowed to infect another dimension again. Sentry asks them what about the flesh that they detected, where is it? Brody begins burning through the zombies, telling them that he's got their flesh right here. You never managed to turn me. Every time that he got bitten, he just cut off that part of his body and replaced it with some Stark tech. So what's one less finger? He's got 2 more. The fight between the 2 zombie factions erupts, with everyone rushing in to kill each other. Moon Knight tells Thundra to get Spider-Man. He has something attached to his back. She says that she does not take orders from men. Fortunately, she was going to do that anyway. But before she can, the Hulk rips her body in half, telling her, Bugman is Hulk's friend. He teaches Hulk all zombies must die. Quicksilver runs past, snatching the canister off of Peter, but as he runs away, Peter launches out his vein webbing, ripping off Quicksilver's head. Quicksilver's body continues to run, and Peter shouts for someone to stop that body. Logan then charges in towards Sentry, telling him that he'll never forgive him for killing Kitty. Sentry knocks him away, telling him that he is both an unstoppable force and a movable object. Logan tells him, unstoppable I can work with, just as long as I can cut something. He stabs into Sentry, but he knocks him away, asking, do you know what you've just done? Do you want to release the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns? As the Sentry tries to contain himself, a blue light beams down on everyone, and Sentry sees that he's now been teleported back up to the moon in a test tube. Hank tells him that he figured out how to unlock the rest of the multiverse. He just needed a power source. Say a power source of 1,000,000 exploding suns? Now with everyone on the moon, the battle continues with everyone trying to get the canister back, and Logan manages to cut it open. Everyone looks and sees the canister was filled with sand. And Moon Knight asks, are they supposed to be impressed by this? Peter says that Tony Stark developed nanites that attack the disease. The only problem is that they needed to be eaten. So he tracked down an old friend who can force everyone to ingest him and loaded him up with the vaccine. Flint Marco begins to swirl around, forcing the sand into everyone, and soon everyone's bodies begin to decay and fall apart. Peter tells Flint Marco thank you, but he just tells him good riddance. As Hank's body begins to fade away, a light begins to shine and the Watcher appears, stating that was fascinating. Flint Marco says they told him that he was dead, and the Watcher says that he is a being of pure energy. There's nothing to be turned, even as persistent as the zombies were. All he was doing was observing the events unseen, waiting for the then perfect solution to present itself. Using the power of the Sentry, the Watcher goes on stating that this terror shall never begin, because it never truly began. With a flash in the sky, the human Avengers appear. And that concludes Marvel Zombies Return. Now we gotta go to Marvel Zombies Part 5. It just never ends. It never ends. But the next story is gonna continue the storylines of Morbius in the Marvel Zombies. Also, just so you know, once this series ends, we'll be replacing it with the Ultimate Spider-Man run, doing all of the stories all the way up to the inevitable end of that one. Hope you guys enjoy, and if you do like your comic books being read like this, please give the video a like, and follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Comicstorian.